Yeah, we back. Now, today we're going to be talking about France apologizes for the 1944 Senegalese massacre. Now, I don't know what's going on, but Emmanuel Macron, the president of France, has been going around trying to repair the French image and the French reputation. For example, just last year, I saw that, take a look up on the screen. This from the New York Times. Macron honors Toussaint Louverture, the Haitian revolutionary. And I did a video on that a while back, and I basically told Emmanuel Macron, take that so-called apology and acknowledgement and throw it in the garbage can. Now, as we all know, over the past few years, French economic influence, French military influence has been on the decline in Africa, right? They've been getting chased out of countries left and right. They just homeless on the continent, going around knocking on doors, begging to be accepted. Coming to the black man with a hat in their hand. Please, Mr. Black Man, please, can we have a conversation? The French have been extremely humble as of recently, trying to present a more friendly image after years of spilling blood, after centuries of spilling blood. And now they're coming to Senegal after decades of denying this incident, after decades of refusing to acknowledge this incident, after never even putting it in the history books to teach the children. They have now come to the Senegalese government and now have apologized to Senegal. Take a look up on the screen. For the first time, France calls the 1944 killings of West African troops a massacre. French President Emmanuel Macron on Thursday for the first time recognized the killing of West African soldiers by the French army in 1944 as a massacre in a letter addressed to the Senegalese authorities. Macron's move on the eve of the 80th anniversary of the World War II killings in Thiaroye comes as France's influence is declining in the region, with Paris losing its sway in the former French colonies in West Africa. Like I told you before, France at this point in time is a shadow of its former self. France is a shell of its former self, right? They out here scrambling, trying to maintain relevance. They scrambling, trying to protect their dwindling interests on the continent, right? As we all know, over the past few years, the French have been kicked out of several countries left and right. They've been going around knocking on doors like a homeless person. For whatever reason, they refuse to go home. You throw them out the front door, they try to climb back through the window. You kick them out of Mali and Burkina Faso, they try to go into Niger. Then the president of Niger gets overthrown, the military takes over the government. Now they trying to knock on doors, now they trying to go to Ghana. Recently, I seen that the president of Ghana made a state visit to France. Now, I don't know why English-speaking Africans are intermingling with President Macron. That's strange, but anyways, like I said, man, the so-called democratic leaders, the so-called democratic leaders. And to my surprise, I seen an interview and I found out that the president of Ghana actually speaks perfect French. He is actually a fluent French speaker. That was surprising to me. Now, it's strange when I see English-speaking Africans, Anglophone Africans intermingling with President Macron, because due to the fact that the English-speaking Africans never really had to, go toe-to-toe with the French like that, they were able to develop their countries at a quicker pace in comparison to the French-speaking Africans who are being destroyed and suffocated by the French. So to me, when I see the president of Ghana going to meet with President Macron, when I see the president of Nigeria, Tinubu, going to meet with President Macron, I feel like that's taking a step backwards. Why would you want to link up with the French? Don't you see what happened to the other African nations that have had partnerships with the French for the past 60 years, for the past 100 years? Compare your development and compare where they are at, right? For the longest time, it was seen that it was the Anglophone Africans who had more sovereignty than the Francophone Africans. So I don't know why the Anglophone Africans are going backwards now. I mean, as you can see, France has never been a reliable partner. France has never been known for economic development. France has never been known for anything positive. The reality of the matter is Africa is the lifeblood of France's economic survival. The oil, the gas, the uranium, the gold. So now recently they've been on an apology tour, right? They've been going to Haiti. I'm sorry that we killed Toussaint Louverture. I'm sorry that we tortured his wife like that. I'm sorry that we did that. They're going to Senegal. I'm sorry that we killed all those black men and left all those children fatherless. I'm sorry that we left all those black women as widows. I'm sorry. I'm sorry, brother. I'm sorry. So now they're going around with their hat in their hand, trying to get on their knees and flatter the black man in the hopes of getting back into our good graces. Now, in terms of French-speaking Africa, the anti-French sentiment has reached such a high level that you even got the children exhibiting anti-French sentiment. So the French have been driven out of French West Africa. So now they're going into English-speaking Africa, right? Because in English-speaking Africa, they don't share the same colonial history, right? The French never killed their grandmother, killed their grandfather. So that animosity is not there in English-speaking Africa. So that's why you see President Macron going to meet with the president of Ghana, and it's all smiles. Going to meet with the president of Nigeria, and it's all smiles. It's like when someone's reputation has been destroyed in a certain city or a certain neighborhood, so they skip town and go to a different city to try to start over again. That's what the French are doing, right? They got ran out of French West Africa. Their reputation is in the toilet. So now they're trying to skip town, go across town, go to a different state where their reputation is fresh. They got a clean slate and they can start over. Take a look up on the screen. President Macron even had the goddamn military singing songs for Tinubu, the president of Nigeria, right? The Republican Guard, the French Republican Guard sitting there throwing a concert for the president of Nigeria, right? They're really trying to flatter the black man. But I'm telling you, this is what I mean. They come to the black man with their hat in their hand. Please, Mr. Black Man, can we have a conversation? Please, Mr. Black Man, give me 5 minutes of your time, please. But that goes to show that France economically and geopolitically and diplomatically is in a very vulnerable position. Like I told you, there's blood in the water, right? There's blood in the water. The prey is wounded, and France is really desperately trying to get things back on track. Now, I may do another video going deeper on the presidents of Ghana and Nigeria meeting with France, but like I said, I really don't know what France could really offer. France is not going to offer economic development. They never done that ever in their history. They never offered economic development to the black man. True partnerships based on, mutual benefit never happened, never will. And as it relates to military cooperation, as you can see, after 10 years before they got kicked out, they couldn't even defeat the terrorists in the flip-flops in the Sahel, right? They couldn't even drive out the so-called jihadists. So, these so-called advanced Western armies getting destroyed by a bunch of radical Islamist extremists in flip-flops. So obviously, in terms of their military power, it's pathetic. You mean to tell me the French army went from the days of Napoleon Bonaparte going across Europe, marching across Europe, vanquishing everything in its path, to now, after 10 years, they couldn't even defeat the goddamn jihadists in the desert? Please, man, them boys fell off, boy. Them boys fell off. What did 50 Cent say? Damn, homie. In high school, you was the man, homie. What the fuck happened to you? I got the sickest vendetta when it comes to the cheddar. Man, listen, them boys fell off, man. In high school, you was the man, homie. The fuck happened to you? Anyways, let's continue. Between 35 and 400 West African soldiers who fought for the French army in the Battle of France in 1940 were killed on December 1st, 1944 by French soldiers after what the French described as a mutiny over unpaid wages. The West Africans were members of the unit called the Thiaroye Senegalese, a corps of colonial infantry in the French army. According to historians, there were disputes over unpaid wages in the days before the massacre. But on December 1st, French troops rounded up the West African soldiers, mostly unarmed, and shot and killed them. Now, when we talk about the massacre that occurred in 1944, you got to think 400 to 500 black men killed in cold blood. These men were sons, brothers, husbands, fathers, right? So when you account for those 400 to 500 families that lost their primary provider, because keep in mind, these men were protesting due to unpaid wages, right? We done went to war for you, fought in a dumbass war, came all the way out to Europe, dodging, bombs and bullets and all this nonsense, right? I'm in a goddamn trench. What the fuck I'm doing in a trench in Germany? What the fuck, bro? Now, you don't want to pay me my goddamn money. I got a wife to feed. I got a kid to feed. I got my mama need money. My father need money. What you mean you're not going to pay me my money? You're not going to pay me my fucking money, bro? So then once these black men rose up and defended themselves and defended their honor, the white boy grabbed the weapon and blew him away on the spot, killed him on the spot, and then covered it up and acted like nothing ever happened until today when they finally apologized in 2024 after everybody's dead. Everybody's dead and gone now. I think there's only one living descendant remaining. Everybody else is gone. Now you want to apologize after everybody dead? That shit crazy. You talking about black women that lost their husbands, had to raise their children alone. You talking about children that were left fatherless. And keep in mind, this was not simply just one massacre. This was simply one moment in France's long, bloody history against the black man, bro. If we tally up all the lives lost at the hands of the French government, all the black men and women and children that were killed by the hands of the French government, starting from the 1600s at the beginning of the French colonial project, up until the mid-1900s, when these African nations began to regain their independence. You will not be able to tally up the millions that died, bro. The millions that died. Just in the French colony of Saint-Domingue, millions of black men and women perished over the 200-year history during the colonial period. Millions. That's just one colony. We're not even talking about all the other colonies, bro. And these massacres occurred frequently. These type of massacres where large amounts of blacks were just killed wholesale. And then you got to take into account the attempts at destabilization, assassination of African leaders. When it comes to me, an apology would never be enough. When it comes to me, money itself would never be enough. You're talking about men that after the Berlin Conference, when they made direct military invasions into Africa, you're talking about men that stabbed little black girls to death, little black teenage girls to death, bro, with bayonets. I mean, come on, bro. Like, these men should not feel safe anywhere on the continent. These men should be, anytime they're on the continent, they should be watching their back in fear 24/7. The same way if a black man goes into the wrong neighborhood, like gang territory, and you know you in enemy territory, you don't feel safe, bro. You watching your back. You watching your back, you know, you looking over your shoulder. That's how it should be for the Frenchmen anytime they're on the continent, especially in West Africa. They should be scared to death. Now let's continue.
It's been nearly 80 years since hundreds of black West African soldiers who fought for France's freedom against Nazi Germany during World War II were killed in cold blood by their fellow white French officers in Senegal in 1944, in what is known as the Thiaroye Massacre. This is the story of how France treated its black soldiers and took their lives because they demanded their rights. How it then covered it up and erased it from school curriculums, attempting to deny history and lighten the nation's conscience. Known as the Tirailleurs Senegalais units, these were volunteers and conscripts from former French colonies, serving in the French Army's colonial infantry. Specifically, the soldiers were from Guinea, Mali, Senegal, Burkina Faso, Chad, Benin, Gabon, Ivory Coast, the Central African Republic, and Togo.
And this is why I have the ideology that I have, because as you can see, when the French killed all those black men, they didn't make any distinction of whether you came from Ivory Coast, whether you came from Benin, whether you came from Gabon, whether you came from Senegal, whether you came from Chad, whether you came from Guinea, whether you came from Togo. The enemy simply grabbed his weapon and opened fire, attacking us all at once. So that's why I say we have to move as a unit. We have to understand that when our adversaries come against us, they're going to come as a block, number one, right? They're not going to come by themselves. They're going to come as NATO. They're going to come as the World Bank. They're going to come as the IMF. They're going to come as the United Nations, right? And they're going to attack us all at once. When they create their plans to sabotage us and come against us, they attack us as a block. These were men from basically all the French-speaking territories. And if there was any black men there from the English-speaking territories, they would have killed them too. Because the only reason they killed them was because they were black men, was because they were men of African descent. Their only crime was the fact that they were men of African heritage. That was it. And due to the fact that we are men of African heritage, for whatever reason, these men have declared open war against us. Militarily, economically, geopolitically, and diplomatically. I don't know why, but for whatever reason, these men have declared open war against us. A war that is still waging, still to this day. Now, let's continue.
The soldiers were upset and demanded equal pay to white soldiers, in addition to their unpaid wages and pensions, and so what was a call for justice was translated by the French as a mutiny. And on the night of November 30th, 1944, white French officers killed their black colleagues held in Thiaroye. There is no mention of the incident in French history books, and it's definitely not taught in schools. Even a film made about the Thiaroye massacre in 1988 was banned in France for a decade.
Now, I'm going to come back at another time and talk about how the president of Senegal recently in the past couple of days had told the French government that it's time to abolish all their military bases. It's time for the French military to leave the national territory, right? So I'm going to come back with another video talking about the president of Senegal. But before I get out of here, I want to take a look at what somebody had said. They said this, take a look up on the screen. They always take time before acknowledging their state crimes in their official speeches, yet they are always so quick to want to impose their supposed universal values and give lessons on respect for human rights. Now, France, like many other colonial nations, has built their society, has built their reputation, has built their cultural narrative on a foundation of lies, right? They frame themselves as the bastions of democracy, liberty, and human rights, similar to the United States, right? Constantly lecturing the black man about morality and democratic governance. But meanwhile, France is a terrorist state. You are a terrorist state. For centuries, you have committed acts of terrorism against our people. And still to this day, you have yet to atone for those crimes. I mean, yeah, the black man in Haiti, massacred you and your wife and your children, but still, you have never atoned for the magnitude of crimes you have committed against the black family. And when I say black family, I'm not talking about just the black man, but also the black woman and the black child. You can't wave the banner of human rights and democracy when your history is soaked in blood, bro. But the reason they are able to do that, the reason they are so arrogant in their hypocrisy is because, like the guy said in the video, they don't even teach this in their school curriculum. They don't even acknowledge the negative elements of their history. They only acknowledge and glorify the positive elements of their history. And the only reason they're embarking on this apology tour is because their economic interests are in jeopardy. Their geopolitical influence in Africa has been under attack. So now they're doing damage control and trying to get back on track. Now, the Anglophone Africans, the Anglophone blacks might be unsuspecting. They might not know who you are. They might be unfamiliar with you, but we know who you are. We are very familiar. And make no mistake, there is a very large karmic debt to pay. You do not spill the blood of millions of innocent people, destroy entire civilizations and cultures without consequence, leaving black women as widows, leaving black children without a father, and you think there's not a karmic debt to pay. There is a large karmic debt to pay, and the balance is staggering. But anyways, man, it's your boy Neferkari, that's Elaine, back in the Billy, yes indeed. Cash App in the description. Support the channel, man. Support the album. Peace.
No. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news. Back in my city, they loving me. Standing alone, I'm 100 deep. Enemy plotting and still in reach. They trying to make sure that we underneath. Trying to make sure that we never make it. Coming for power, come get acquainted. Coming for everything that I wanted. Feeling like Drake, but I really wrote it. Feeling like Kendrick, I'm checking names. Gotta roll up while I go insane. Got so much stress, I been gained weight. Stuffing these racks in this Louis case. One thing for certain, I'm about to check. Keep it 100 and nothing less. Stick with the family since day one. Had to stay down till my day come. Had to stay down, but I'm never patient. Hop on the mic and I'm motivated. Hop on the mic and I drive a classic. Haters can't see me, they copping glasses. Back in the studio making magic. Got a new tape and it's in production. Back on my business, I got a budget. Staying low key when I'm out in public. Feel like I'm 75. Know that your team be full of them traders, you know that can never be mine. I'm grabbing a thought when I drive. I'm back in my zone and we on. She said that she ready to come be my wife, yeah, hoping I don't do her wrong. I gave her my word in this bond. I'm whipping the best like a lamb. I mean no chicken and lamb. Accustomed to call me the man. I never be up on the gram. I'm keeping that way undercover. She want me to tell her I love her. I told her I'm breaking the rules. I told her we making the news.